Welcome back to Forge Talks and welcome to my amazing guest this week, my good friend Ashley Stevenson. Ashley, welcome back to Forge Talks.
Thank you so much, Fraser. It's great to be back on ForgeTalks. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And I believe congratulations are in order. I checked just this morning and your episode from season 1 on single sign-on is to date the most viewed episode of Forge Talks. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, and guys, if you haven't seen that episode, then do make sure to check it out. It's a real humdinger. But today, Ashley, we're talking about hybrid, right? We hear this term hybrid. It seems to crop up all the time these days. You know, hybrid cars, hybrid workforce, hybrid working, hybrid IT. But specifically today, we're talking about hybrid IT, right? And how organizations can turn their hybrid IT into a competitive advantage.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And like I said, we hear this term a lot, but you know, what does it actually mean when we say hybrid?
Well, that's a great place to start. I think that hybrid can apply to many different scenarios, but if we look at a nutshell definition, we're basically talking about combining different things together to make something new.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's some important points of why we do hybrid in the first place that we want to focus on here, not just putting things together for the sake of putting them together. So a couple of things. One, I think that when something's hybrid, the sum need to be greater than the parts.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be part of our theme today. Number two, especially when you're dealing with technology, it's about the effective management of the combination of things that you're putting together. And then three, some hybrid scenarios are intentional and they're planned from the beginning, and some are not. They're a little bit less intentional, and we'll talk about that as well. So with those three things, I thought we could talk for a minute about something you're probably familiar, Fraser, with the Toyota Prius. Yeah?
Yeah,
You've heard of that car before?
Yeah.
Right. So besides being known as one of the most beautiful and sought after car designs that this world has ever seen, the Toyota Prius is also known for its hybrid capabilities. And what it does is it ties together a gas engine with an electric engine, and it does that in a hybrid way.
Mm.
So a couple of things. Let's hit our points here. How is the sum greater than the parts? Well, you could argue that you get more gas mileage and you spend less on fuel as one of the things. So we'll start with that. But the other thing is you get a great experience with something you don't have to worry about your battery's going to run out. You don't have to worry about how it's going to work. And this is the magic of managing how these two pieces come together to make something better. And Toyota does that with their hybrid synergy drive. And what does that do? But it's a technology that behind the scenes is constantly monitoring and tweaking and looking at things so that sometimes you're driving completely on a gas engine, sometimes completely electric, sometimes somewhere in the middle. It's constantly making sure that your batteries are kept charged, and all you have to do is get in and drive and keep an eye on the fuel gauge. So I think that's a good example that everybody kind of understands of hybrid to get us started before we move down into the technology layers.
Got it. And so another area that we hear hybrid used a lot these days is when referring to the hybrid workforce, particularly in the last couple of years. So is that also something that's relevant here?
I think so. I think hybrid work is a great starting point for getting us into talking about the hybrid enterprise. And what did we see happen with COVID-19 that led to the remote work? Something changes in the world, and then the technology that supports it has to adapt. And so that hybrid work is a hot topic when Harvard Business Review puts it on the front page of their magazine, which they did just this past May. And the image on there is really kind of funny. In a different analogy, you've got a Lego figure, and this Lego figure has on the top half, it has a suit and tie and looks all business. And on the lower half, there's like boxer shorts with little pink hearts and bunny slippers. So just another fun way to talk about hybrid. But on a more serious note, one of the things that the remote work brought forward, and one of the focus areas for our purposes today, was there was a need to provide more secure access methods to these remote workers who one day they're used to working in the office most all the time, and that's how they access their applications. And the next day they're remote and they need to get access, but that company needs to secure that access, and they've got to do it really quickly. Now, that's just the tip of the iceberg, Fraser. It's really emblematic of the deeper challenge that we call the hybrid enterprise. And what do I mean by hybrid enterprise? I mean all of the different pieces and parts of the information technology that an enterprise or large enterprise needs to make their business go, to serve their customers, and to be successful.
Totally. I love that front cover of the Harvard Business Review. I can definitely relate to that Lego man.
I think a lot of us can.
Yeah, totally. Um, so earlier you said that some of the hybrid scenarios that we see, a lot of them are unplanned. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of the time, hybrid is quite reactive. Is that true in the hybrid enterprise, do you think?
You know, it is. As you get down into the technology space, you'll find it's much more common that you have much less choice. And there's some reasons for that. So here's one of them. They call it technology's long tail. And besides thinking about what kind of animal your technology is, the meaning of the phrase is more about innovation. And innovation in technology happens much faster than the full implementation to sunset life cycle that an organization might have. So there's always something new coming out and better. And meanwhile, an organization has just started has spent all this time deploying something and integrating it, and they can't just immediately swap it out for what's new. Hence, you get this long tail of technology, and you end up with this hybrid reality, right? And some of that's not by choice, because some of it came from your predecessors. Some of it came from other parts of an organization that bought things that you maybe didn't have an approval on. And some things came from things like COVID. So every organization's journey is really somewhat different. And they've got a different mix of things. It's this different mix of technologies. And there's some categories of this technology difference, right? Some of it is infrastructure. So infrastructure mix could include on-prem infrastructure, your own servers, public and private cloud consumption. It could be some cloud SaaS subscriptions. You've got mobile apps, you've got web apps, you've got old home built apps that you've got lots of different application architectures and frameworks. And the interesting thing is, the larger and the older the enterprise, typically the more complex. They've got a lot of long technology tails to deal with because they've been around longer. They've got more things implemented over time. So that's a lot on the technology side. Fraser, let's not lose sight of the business driver here. Why are we doing all this in the first place? And a really important focus is that all this technology, it needs to come together to provide great experiences with strong security. And when you boil down this digital world, especially in the world of remote work and everybody doing everything from anywhere, not just workers, but people, everyone, security and experience matter, and we need to elevate both of them. But the way that we do that with all these different technologies that we've talked about is different. The way that you give a great experience to one of those old applications that you've had around for a long time that doesn't know anything about multi-factor authentication is different than what you might do with some of the cloud services that you're subscribing to. So it's managing that difference again. And that's why I said at the beginning, it's key to success in hybrid with technology is managing the differences of how you combine those things together. So that begs the question, how do you take this hybrid reality and actually make it work to your advantage in your business? And Fraser, the answer, of course, is carbon fiber. Now we'll get back to that, but let's continue on.
Okay, so you're talking about a lot of different moving pieces and parts, but calling back to something you said earlier, how does the sum become greater than the parts? And also, what on earth does carbon fiber have to do with it?
You can guess I'm so glad that you asked that question, Fraser. So let's dive in. I mean, earlier, not that long ago, because this is not an hour conversation, but a little bit ago, we talked about how in technology, a big part of hybrid success is how you manage it. If we think back to the Toyota Prius, they did such a great job of managing that technology between the electric and the gas engine that you had a great experience. You didn't even notice it. Now, when it comes to technology, there's this thing called digital identity, and that is how you get a sum that's greater than the parts. Now, let's talk about how that works for a second. So digital identity is an interesting thing, Fraser, because at the same time, it acts as a security perimeter and it acts as a red carpet. So you might visualize in your head, an exclusive club outside, and this is the whole connection to the need for experience and security. It's that perimeter and the red carpet at the same time, and it's making that decision. So
Hmm.
think of it as a digital version. Yeah. Think of it as a digital version of a tuxedo wearing bouncer who smiles and welcomes guests who are on the list while tosses the uninvited to the curb because they're not allowed in. That's really the analogy here, and where Toyota was successful of combining gas and electric. You can be successful by combining experience and security, and the way that you do that is digital identity, right at the center of those crossroads.
Mm.
Now, you probably want to know how carbon fiber has anything to do with this, so let's jump into that and have some fun for a minute. So carbon fiber, right? It's this interwoven set of different strands that when you weave them together and you get this material, this kind of like a cloth, if you will, it's very strong because of many different fibers are woven together. And that is really representative of today's enterprise and what they're already doing today. They're trying to connect and doing a great job of connecting all of their infrastructure, their applications, so that they can serve their customer.
Uh-huh.
But the area that they have a problem is in providing a consistent experience and security across those, like we talked about with identity. So second thing about carbon fiber, that blanket, if you will, that cloth can be molded into any shape. And what holds that mold together is this binding agent. In the composites realm, it's called resin. You could think of it as glue, but it turns that carbon cloth into a rigid material that's 5 times stronger than steel and twice as rigid. And this is what's needed to take experience and security to the next level with digital identity. So to summarize, you've got your unique mix of technologies. That's your strand. That's your carbon fiber blanket. And digital identity is the glue that helps you shape and massively strengthen your hybrid reality to give those experiences and security where they need to be. Now, to do this, you need an IAM platform that is purpose-built for your enterprise scale, your enterprise complexity to help simplify it, and so on. Now, imagine a carbon fiber piece that only had resin in some spots. You'd have some strong spots and some floppy spots. This is what happens when enterprises have little bits of identity here and there that solve different problems. You don't get that strength. You don't get that differentiation that you need. And Fraser, that's really where the ForgeTalks solution comes in. We have the only comprehensive identity solution that can bring together your hybrid environment with a single platform on the customer's terms without disrupting their business. And one of the ways that we do that is to help them modernize as they go without disrupting. And so when you think back to the long tail of technology, you think about there's always going to be a new technology and there's always going to be the old, and you're always going to be in an iterative evolution of bringing along what you have until you can change it to what's new. But business has to keep going. You got to shut down for 3 months while you retool everything. So you need to be able to modernize in place, and we have the tools to help you do that.
Yeah, that's a really clever analogy, and it actually makes perfect sense. I think the funny thing about hybrid is that, to your point, companies are not entering into a hybrid reality voluntarily, or at least, not in every case. This is just the nature of the world that we live in and the challenges that face organizations. So it's not like it's something you can avoid, and you have to be able to deal with hybrid well in order to succeed. So I wonder if, just to finish us off, you could maybe share a story that you have, that we have at ForgeTalks, of a customer that really helps to frame the hybrid reality in a specific use case.
I would love to. I love customer stories, and we started talking about the Prius. So I thought, let's go into the automotive industry. And there's a major European automotive manufacturer who's been a customer of ForgeTalks for some time now. And, their profile is they've got, of course, millions and millions of customers. They've got hundreds of thousands of employees and affiliates. They've got that mix of on-prem and those aspirations to go to cloud. They've got all these different types of applications. And we help them by taking their carbon fiber mesh, if you will, and spreading the ForgeTalks platform to connect everything together. So if you think about it, they have applications that are web applications for their customers to maybe come on and search and build the car of their dreams and to interact with their brand initially. They've got applications for office workers who are doing the finances, who are doing marketing, who are doing the designs and have to get those off to the factory workers who are using other applications. And then you've got the dealers who are using yet different applications to be able to sell the vehicles and to maintain the vehicles as they come in. And then last but not least, you've got the customer inside of the vehicle having an experience through the infotainment system. Every single one of those things has to have digital identity, and it has to be brought together to provide the right experience at the right time, because the experience is important for the user, for the workforce as well, so that they can get things done to production in time to meet the customer's demands for that vehicle to come out in the production year. So it all has to work together. And we've seen this automaker take some of those legacy, some of those spot patchwork pieces that we talked about of the resin, of the identity not being complete throughout the whole cloth, if you will, and work ForgeRock in over top to be able to modernize in place without disrupting and make it all happen. So, that's one example. So I guess, Fraser, to bring it home, when we talk about how can you turn your hybrid IT into competitive advantage, let's just summarize. When you do some of these things we talked about, you can move more quickly than your competitors, and that's an advantage. You can develop better experiences for your customers. You can improve the efficiencies of your workforce, and you can also elevate security for everyone and everything, including devices and microservices and all that around it. And when you put all that stuff together, you've now taken something that was maybe unexpected, not perfectly planned, and turned it into an advantage for you and your business.
Love it. Well, that's amazing, Ashley. Thank you for taking us all through that. And I think we did a survey at one of our virtual events last year, and we asked ForgeRock customers how long they thought they would be in a hybrid reality. And I can't remember the exact percentage, so maybe you remember it.
I happen to have it right here. 86% of our customers of organizations who we surveyed said that they are going to plan to be some form of hybrid in the reality for at least the next 5 years. And that was specifically around hybrid cloud, not all the other infrastructure and applications, just hybrid cloud.
Yeah, that was not planned, by the way. So
Nope.
I did not know that you had that stat to hand. So
That's
great
right.
minds obviously think alike. But yeah, it's so true. It's going to be the reality. So if anyone is watching this and wants to really turn their hybrid IT into a competitive advantage, please do get in touch with us. Obviously, you can head over to our website and there'll be a ton more information there as well. But for now, I'll just say, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on and taking us all through that today. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
That's always so much fun, Fraser. Thanks a lot. Take care.
And guys, hopefully you enjoyed that episode, and we will see you next time.